I've not been behind this pulpit before, so I wasn't sure if I had a clock to follow. I was asked to give a homily, so I've given sermons in churches, never a homily. So I had to look it up so I could follow the structure. A homily is a talk, usually leaving you with one message, one thing to think about. And it takes between 9 to 10 minutes. I thought, wow, I'm long-winded. This will be a challenge. So I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced, and lo and behold, you can throw a lot of examples out to get to that one thought. When I was about 4.5 years old, the church had this thing about memorizing verses. So my sister, who was 1.5 years older than me and mentally challenged, she had to give her verse because they were going pew by pew. So my older brother said to her, second shortest verse in the Bible, because someone had already said Jesus wept, which is the shortest, is rejoice evermore. So she stood up and said, rejoice evermore. They asked her where it was found. She said, I don't know. And then I thought to myself, you should have gave that to me. I'm stupid. I'm young. And then my brother said to me, pray without ceasing. And I thought, oh, I can do that. So I jumped up and I said, pray without ceasing. And then I thought, as years went on, I remembered that incident because I should have got rejoice evermore. I'm the youngest. So I looked it up and I went through those scriptures quite a bit. And so I was thinking, we're having Christmas in July. What can we possibly talk about but rejoice evermore? It's found in 1 Thessalonians 5. It calls rejoice evermore. It's Paul's signing off to the Thessalonian church. And he goes, rejoice evermore. Pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks. I'm a living testimony that your challenges in life, though they're hard to go through, and you might wonder why in God's green earth I'm going through it, can actually be leading you either home, which is your promotion, or here to work a little bit longer, maybe never understanding why you had to go through it, but you might find yourself in a much better life than what you could have lived. Our lips are weapons to either commend somebody or cut them down. I know what your lips can do because when I was growing up, I heard words like, you're a loser, you'll never amount to nothing, I wish you had never been born. I learned what that can do to you. But when I was 8 years old, I had my favorite aunt come up from Texas. She said to me at a family reunion, she said, look around. You see everybody? You want to be like them? I didn't like my relatives because they didn't like me because I was weird. And I said, no, don't want to be like them at all. She said, good, be different. You can do whatever you want to do. I never forgot those words. I decided I was going to be the best at whatever I decided I was going to do in every aspect. So I've gone through many people telling me I shouldn't do stuff, that I didn't need to do stuff. And one of them was when I went for my doctorate, they said, you don't need that. You're a white male. You don't need a doctorate in divinity. And I said, well, I grew up thinking that you have to be the best, so I'm going to do it. So I come here and I find out that I got inspiration by people that said, we had a doctorate of divinity leave here. And I thought, wow, that's funny because I'm coming here. And I thought, great. And I decided to stay because that young lady right there always made sure that I had a nice hug when I came in. And then the rest of you just kind of like sprouted out. And I realized that, wow, this is a great church. So I decided to stay. And I'm glad I did. People have asked me, why do you go here when you're in Detroit? And I said, it's obvious. I have a family here. This is a church that is a family. The words out of your mouths kept me here. I saw Peter and Don get here. And I made what you guys did to me, to them, and I watched you all encourage them. And I watched them going to membership class the same time I did for this church. We had a great time with you also. And we had a blast. Richard was very patient with us, and we were a handful. One thing that I want to tell you a little bit of story. As a rascal, I joined the Navy and to travel the world. And while I was in there, I started to get wiser because I was getting older. And I was a brat. I was the youngest. I was a brat. So I was in there and I just got through fighting at Grenada and I seen people die. And I realized that my father had went through World War II and he'd seen masses of people die. And it changed him. So when I came home and I saw him, I looked him in the eyes when my mom walked out of the room and I said, I thoroughly understand and I never ever want to talk about it. And he understood. So I got back on my ship, and I was thinking about my dad and about the time we had, and I wrote him a letter, and I mailed it. And in that letter, I told him how much I loved him. I told him how proud I was that he was my dad. He never heard that out of my lips before. I told him I was glad that he was not perfect, because now I could be the father that I want to be, because I didn't have to be perfect either, and that I hope to be as good of dad as he was to me. My father had his faults. I have many. My son can attest to you that I was not a perfect father, but I love him dearly, and he's just like me. So, we're going through that silent treatment. But anyway, so I wrote my dad the letter, and when he died shortly afterwards, Mom said, take whatever you want. So I was going through his drawers, and I found this envelope, and I opened it up. And here was my letter, all tattered, and it had Scotch tape on every side of it. And I'm everywhere. And I'm looking at this, and I pull it out, and I goes, Mom, what's up with this? I'm thinking, did Dad rip this thing up? It's supposed to be a good letter. She said he read that thing every day, sometimes more than once. He read it so much and folded it so much it was falling apart, so I had to tape it so he could continue reading it. She said, that man was so proud of you, he started wearing your clothes. I was like, really? She said, didn't you notice he was wearing your sweaters when you came home in the summer? And I said, no, I just thought he was an old man that was cold. And she said, no, he's wearing your clothes because he missed you. And she said, that did him a world of good. And from that moment on, I learned that our lips are a weapon. We can either use them for good or we can use them for bad. And if you keep your mouth shut, that can also be a bad thing. Not all the time, but it can be a bad thing. Because I've been in churches where no one greeted me, and I was able to come in and out without one person saying, I'm glad you're here. And it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. You all are real good at this because you kept me here. And I was very impressed because it's the most friendliest church I've been to in my entire life. And I've been to many. So one thing I wanted to give you a thought is that today, as you go out and about and you're rejoicing about Christmas in July and the thoughts about being with friends and family, celebrating the marriage that took place, is to think about one thing. Oprah Winfrey called it, pay it forward. Now, you can go to McDonald's if you want to, get in the drive-thru and pay for the person's meal behind you, beside yours, and watch and see what happens there. You can go downtown, meet a homeless person like I do constantly, and give them respect. Not the person collecting money on the side of the street, an actual homeless person. Give them respect. Tell them, if nothing else, God loves you, and I hope you have a really blessed day, because you can do whatever you want to set your mind to, and you can get yourself off the street. I know you can. I've been there, and I'm no longer living there. So you can do it, because that's really all they want, is someone to give them respect and to give them what their mom and their dad did, because they're someone's son and someone's daughter. So today, I just encourage you as you go away from the church today, rejoice evermore in every situation you possibly can, and when you can't, just tell God, I'm having a rough day. He wants you to be honest with Him. Take that moment. Have that rough day. And then when you get it back on your feet, go into Him in prayer and tell Him, it's rough because, and I want to thank you for being patient. Because He's the best dad you'll ever see in the entire world. He loves you. He loves all your faults. We don't have to be perfect. But give people encouragement today, because today is a day that can change your life. There are plenty of rewards if you want to go ahead and grab a hold of them.